Thomas here with Much Props. Going to give you another how-to video. Today I am building something from a Studio Ghibli movie. Studio Ghibli. I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce a lot of things. I go ahead and apologize in advance. I don't speak Japanese, but I'll do my best. Today I'm going to build something from one of the movies that I watched recently. I got like 15 of them that I watched in the past week. Kind of fell down a rabbit hole and continued because they're beautiful masterpieces. You should definitely go check out. One of which was the movie Princess Mononoke. And in that movie, there are these little weird wood creatures that make sure that the forest will stay fresh and plentiful and healthy, called Kodama. And they're these little white glowy creatures that have rattle heads. And I thought, why not make a diorama out of some scrap material of a pretty awesome movie? So today we are building some Kodama dioramas from Princess Mononoke. Let's get to building. Here's just a couple handfuls of random scrap from my barrel. As a builder of many things, a lot of which are built from foam, I have lots of scrap. I try to use as much as possible, but at some point you have to discard little bits. For me, a rule of thumb is if it's smaller than my palm, I get rid of it. My exception to that is if there's a circle or strip cut out. I also keep almost all of my scraps that are 24mm thickness and above. These make great pieces for carving. My first thought was to build a chopped down tree trunk. I find a base for the diorama in my scraps and a circle for the tree circumference, then simply just build up random bits for the sides, gluing them together with contact cement. You'll also notice I glued some layers on top of the trunk to add little protrusions and roots and things like that. These also help to cover up seam lines and blemishes in the foam. Now it's time to put on my mask and face shield and start carving. I switch between sanding bits, stone bits, and a wood burner to shape out the trunk and define the grooves of the tree bark. I also burnt in tree rings on the top surface while I was at it. Once I had all the shapes carved out to what I wanted, I glued it to my base. What's a flourishing forest floor without a couple whimsical red cap mushrooms? I found a couple of images and decided on 3 to fill the back corner behind the large root. To give a little variation, I'm also going to make them 3 different sizes. For the big one, I didn't want to have to carve out the whole cap out of one chunk of EVA foam, so I'm going to heat up this 6mm foam, push it into a salsa bowl, and let it cool. It'll retain the shape, then I figure out how small a circle is needed for the bottom to make the gills or the little slit thingies on the underside of the mushroom and cut it out. The stem was pretty simple. Could have made it even simpler by using an EVA dowel, but I didn't find any EVA dowels in my scrap bin. For the gills, the little ridges on the underside of the mushroom, I just burned them in with my wood burner, working towards the middle. Make sure to wear a respirator and work in a well-ventilated area while burning or sanding foam. You don't want to breathe in the fumes or the particles. It's not good for your lungs. Once done, I glued the 3 pieces together, then added a thin layer of jagged cut 2mm foam to make the ring on the stem. Now that all my scenery bits are constructed, it's time to move on to the Kodama. An easy way to attack building little figures like this is to segment out their body pieces to make it more manageable. I make the body, then the head, and using my reference images make the limbs proportionate to these parts. I do a rough shaping with my box cutter, use a sanding drum on my rotary tool to refine the shape, then switch over to a stone bit to smooth over everything. The nice thing about these creatures is they have similar bodies, different shaped heads, and kind of similar facial features in random spots. Now that all the bits are shaped, he's ready to glue up. I am just going to use some super glue to quickly tack him together. I decided by this point to make 3 of them to fill the spaces of my diorama, so this one's going to sit with his legs drawn up to his chest on top of the tree stump. Another will be standing at the base, leaning on it, and I think I'll make a 3rd one that sits on top of the mushroom, so I have to curve the legs out over it. Just have to repeat the steps again to make the other 2. Made a little stand out of scrap wood and wire, so it's easier to paint them with 2 coats of Plasti-Dip. The Kodama get a base coat of a bluish green spray paint, the mushroom gets a light tan on the stem and red on the cap, and the base gets a light brown. To make sure all of the tree trunk details stand out, I start with a black wash over the top of all the surfaces, then I wipe away the high points with a paper towel and set it aside to dry. It'll get some dry brush of lighter brown colors in a minute, just hitting the ridges as I go up in the lighter colors. The top and the limb stump will get a lighter color also over them, and then the same dry brushing technique as well. Those of you who have watched Princess Mononoke probably wondered why I painted these little guys green. They kind of have this ghostly appearance in the movie, and instead of painting them plain white or adding multiple layers of glow paint that won't be visible most of the time, I decided to paint the effect on instead, similar to how I painted my Zero ghost dog from The Nightmare Before Christmas. I make multiple passes on each of them with some white Plaid Effects paint, purposefully not getting all the way covered. The little bits that shine through the green will kind of give it that glowy effect. The mushrooms get some washes and darker colors on them, and I finish them off with a little white scale dots on the top. Now I'm going to glue the mushrooms to the base before I do my next step. A simple glop of some super glue will tack them down into place. They don't have to be structurally sound, so I don't have to put wires or anything in them. They'll hold well for what they're doing. I have a plan for the ground coverage, but wanted to make sure that they're down first, as it'd be a little harder to glue them after my application. Time for some static grass. I really liked the look of this on my Happy Mask Salesman diorama from Zelda I made a while back, and figured this one should get it too. I'm using some static grass glue and spreading it all over the base surface where I want grass to be. Then I sprinkle on this 12mm grass. I believe it's a light green grass from Woodland Scenics. Not a sponsor, but you could be if you wanted to. I put it into the applicator, which statically charges the grass to help it stand on end as it falls from the device. Then I put the little probe on my surface and shake it like a Polaroid picture. I got some other little bits to make it look more legit. Some small ground coverage moss, peel and stick mats, and other moss packets. This can make better transitions on your parts, cover up mistakes or areas you're not happy with, or just put a little bit of real stuff on the fake stuff to make it kind of look more realistic. The sheets have super glue sticky adhesive, so you just cut them to the shape you want and stick them on. I use super glue and hot glue to get the other bits to stay where I want. Final step, it's time to add the Kodama to their new little scene and call the project done. I'm really happy with how this scrap build project came together. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite Studio Ghibli movie is and what you would like to see me build from it. As of right now, I think probably my favorite is Spirited Away. Lots of cool stuff in that one that I could be building. And we are finished. Here is the end result. I think it turned out pretty awesome. Definitely something that's going to sit on a shelf very proudly and hopefully be seen by many. Surprisingly enough, my favorite thing that I made on this was actually the mushrooms. I think they turned out really cool. I generate a lot of scrap foam and I try my best not to get rid of it if I at all possibly can, but that means if I'm building every week, I generate a lot of scrap, literally a barrel full. And I try and find ways to incorporate that into builds, and this is a prime example. You can glue that foam together to make your bits that you need. Find something that has jagged edges that can easily be manipulated into shapes that you need, or if you've got the thick foam, carving it out definitely makes it a usable material. So take that for what it's worth. Maybe you'll try and build one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to pull something from your favorite Studio Ghibli movie and make it something that's going to sit on your shelf and make you smile every time you see it. Maybe. Maybe you'll get some.
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. You know, if you like touch their head, they'll do this little rattle thing. Let's see if you can get them to do it. I'll get them real close for you. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to continue to see builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.